world champions. That's what we were when we were taken over, to mid-table mediocrity. That is what we've become. Since that Champions League win, we as Chelsea fans have sat through a 3-month title challenge, followed by toxic Rom kicking his toys out the pram, throwing them all over the place, crying his eyes out because he came home and then he wanted to go home, which was back to Inter rather than his new home for no apparent reason when everything was going well. Then injury after injury after injury after injury, sanctions coming after the Club World Cup. Club World Cup, that was nice, but sanctions coming after that. We lose our ownership, completely gone. We can't go to games, tickets, frozen assets, everything's going on there. New ownership, they come in, spend on some stuff where you think, oh, okay, let's see where this goes. Thomas Tuchel's sacked. We like Tuchel. Why have you got rid of Tuchel? Okay, they've appointed Graham Potter, they've appointed the Brighton manager. Let's see where this goes. Oh, it went down the shitter. It's not gone very well, has it? Potter is sacked. We're bringing Frank Lampard. You guys like Frank Lampard. He's going to fix it. It did not go very well. Don't worry. Pochettino's here. This is who's going to fix it. We kind of want you to bring in a bit more experienced manager, a winner. So we appointed the Spurs manager that was sacked by Spurs and managed to not win Ligue 1 with PSG. We think he's the guy. Okay, fans, we're going to let's try and ignore the Tottenham thing. Let's get behind him. He doesn't play any players in position. We're going to have more injuries. The injuries have been constant throughout. This does not end. And at the end of it, Pochettino will go. It is inevitable at this point. When you've got fans chanting Roman Abramovich, Jose Mourinho, among other things, perhaps more anti the board or anti the ownership or anti the manager, it is a matter of time. And they're delaying the inevitable out of pure stubbornness for, oh, we've appointed this guy, we want to stick with it. I mean, they delayed the inevitable with Potter. We knew Potter had to go months before he went. But the real issue here lies in, do you think they'll appoint the right guy? Not do you think you'd appoint the right guy, not do you think there's a manager out there that could do better, because there certainly are. Do you think this ownership will appoint the right guy? Because everything that they've done so far in their tenure would lead you to believe you can't trust them to do so. I'm someone that wants Poch gone. I don't think Poch is the guy to bring Chelsea forward. I don't think that in the slightest. He's not that guy. I see his misuse of players in terms of playing players out of position the entire time, or misusing players when they're showing a bit of confidence. Someone like Mudryk, he's been scoring goals fairly constantly throughout the season, despite the minutes that he's had. And whenever he scores these goals or contributes in some sort of way, he doesn't play the next game. That doesn't really make sense. But then someone could drop a stinker after stinker after stinker, and they'll consistently start. So there's no consistency there with Poch. So I kind of look at it, I think, you're just a bit clueless. Like that cup final you were given in the palm of your hands, we had them on the ropes. I don't know what he says to teams in team talks, but they seem to come out a million times worse at every point. Our best points in every half is always as we've grown into the half. It's very, very rarely is it that we start incredibly. I don't think he's that guy. Like I said, there's a lot of, in terms of how he's progressed players, I'd argue Gallagher is perhaps the only player to have improved this season. I'd say that everyone else in some form has either regressed or been misused, or has just continued the level that they are. We're lucky that someone like Pep had his hands on Palmer, and then I look at, perhaps game-changing substitutions, reading the game state, and I always think they're too delayed. I think he makes his decisions too late. It tends to be the wrong decision, take the wrong people off. Jackson in the final, for example. Even at the weekend when we have players flagging who've played too much football throughout the week, he doesn't take them off quick enough, maybe at half-time when they're tiring. So I don't think he's quite that guy. And I don't think he has the experience in terms of leading a team to the top, the upper echelon of football, that I can back him to turn this around and be that guy. It's not someone you hold in high esteem, perhaps as well, the fact that he has Spurs links in the past. I think it's a big no. It's a big no. But I also don't know if this ownership will get it right going forward, because there's only two men for the job. Inzaghi at Inter Milan or Diego Simeone at Atletico Madrid. Now, Diego Simeone is the most Chelsea manager of all time to not manage Chelsea. He would bring bastardry back to Chelsea. And that's what I want. I want bastard Chelsea back. It's not always about winning or losing. I remember the 13-14 season at Chelsea was one of my favourite in terms of just from a fan's perspective. We didn't win anything. We won niche. But we did do the double over Liverpool and City with a bit of shithousery along the way. Mourinho absolutely battering Wenger, specialist in failure. Like, those are aspects that I can get behind as a fan, and we can get behind. We need someone we can buy into, and someone like Simeone, who stands for no nonsense, is that to a T. Someone like Inzaghi, I look at getting a tune out of a 56-year-old Arnautovic or a 60-year-old Mkhitaryan, taking them to Champions League finals last year, whiskers away from being City. If it weren't for Big Fat Rom, they could have won that Champions League. And we're very aware of Romelu Lukaku's tendencies. Those are the only two names we should be looking at. Do I think they'll be looking at? No, I think they'll be looking at fancy names. Who's the little hipster? Okay, who are we going for? Amarim is the popular name at the moment. I'm not discrediting his credentials by any means. In fact, I implore you to go watch Alex, Euro Expert's video on him, because I'm not going to sit there and pretend and bullshit you that I've watched loads of Sporting Lisbon, because I haven't. As many haven't. but it's a nice name. It's Portuguese. You go, oh, okay, maybe it's the next Mourinho. Maybe it's this. And if you actually look at that breakdown, it seems more worrying than positive in terms of what he could do with Chelsea. And maybe I'd be proven wrong. I'd love to be proven wrong if they were to go and appoint that manager and he does great things at Chelsea. I would love it. But there's less certainty. And everything about this project so far has involved less certainty. It's about, young players. They're going to be one of the best in the world one day. Okay, well, we don't have that right now, so we need the right coach to develop them into the right player to become one of the best in the world. Do we have that in place right now? No, we don't. Players aren't improving in that sense, or the team collective is not improving in that sense either. We've had so many false dawns this season, 4-4 against City, you think, well, maybe we'll kick on. Or the 1-1 against Liverpool, maybe we'll kick on. 2-2 against Arsenal, oh, you're brilliant. Sanchez gave the ball away, we should have won that game. Maybe we'll kick on. And it hasn't happened. There has not been that progression. We saw signs of talent from individuals, which makes us have some belief in some of these players. Now, I wouldn't write off all these players and sit there and go, these are all mid-table. I don't look at teams above us in Villa, in Spurs. There's some players, obviously, I would take from these clubs, but in Villa, Spurs, Brighton, West Ham, Wolves, Newcastle. I don't look at these squads and think, oh, they have an abundance of talent that is better than ours. I don't think that in the slightest. Do I think perhaps we have a more tactically inept manager in that sense? I do, and I think that's a shame because I want every Chelsea player or manager, whoever it is, to walk in that door to succeed, but I don't think that's the case here. At the end of the day, this idea of uncertainty has been brought on with these owners because we can't trust them because of what they've done in their 2 years. Taking over the world champions and turning them into mid-table mediocrity is the reality of the situation. They came into a team that had come third, challenged Real Madrid in a heartbreaking fashion and gone out, one of Chelsea's best performances in Europe ever. Away from home anyway. They were not a bad side. Losing on penalties in both finals that year. It's a lottery. It's a very different manner to the cup final we just lost. It might have been close to being another 0-0 going to penalties, but it was very different in terms of the teams that are out on the field. In terms of the pride I felt that day in the Carabao Cup, despite us losing under Tuchel in those penalties where Kepa blasted over the bar, I was very proud of that performance. I remember being very proud and feeling very united under Thomas Tuchel. It felt like Chelsea. Thomas Tuchel felt like Chelsea. And it hasn't felt like Chelsea in a long, long time. And that's, like I said, that's not just from a winning perspective. That's from a cultural perspective. I don't think these owners have an understanding of that. And I don't completely agree either with the narratives that it's purely on this idea of we've signed loads of youngsters, where's the experience? Because I'd look at the players on the pitch or the players that we use in terms of experience, and I'd actually question whether you think a Sterling or a Chilwell or a Silva have been some of the top performers. I'd say none of them have. I'd say the experience, some of the lower standard performers, and the players like the Palmers and the Gustos, even the midfield duo that will get called out because of their price tag, or Gallagher, these are all players younger than those experienced ones, and I think they've had a bigger impact in a positive sense for Chelsea. Although there haven't been many, they have been the guys that you've looked at for a bit more hope, for a bit more, that could be something in the future, that could be something that could be worked on with the right guy. So it's unfair, I think, to completely label on that. And also, I think Bowley gets completely thrown under the bus as the guy. And I think it's quite clear to establish he isn't that guy, because when Bowley was the face, we were signing the Sterlings, the Cucurella's, the Koulibalys. They weren't all just young kids. We had a big change in strategy, and you've noticed that he has not been as prevalent as the face of Chelsea going forward. Whether that's Egbali and the rest of Clear Lake taking their roles in a different way. However, the fact that we've appointed a Graham Potter after a Thomas Tuchel and a Pochettino after that, those aren't the calibre of managers Chelsea used to appointing. Like I said, there are two names that Roman would be looking at in the summer, and that's Inzaghi and Simeone. It wouldn't be anyone else. I know we've had our AVBs in the past, but with the mess that we're in, that I don't think it would have got that bad. Don't get me wrong, Chelsea were in a bit of a lull, and that Champions League with Tuchel papered over the cracks, but we would not have been mid-table for 2 seasons in a row under Roman. Just wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. The standards that were set, it just couldn't happen. It wasn't allowed. But if we had a mess of a season, he'd be appointing a guy to completely change that around. And he'd be not making any risks at this point, which is what worries me going forward. Everything here seems like a risk, and not so much a calculated one, more of a gamble. Almost, kind of playing, like when you're younger playing career mode and players go up a certain amount and it's all guaranteed. It's like, there's no guarantee with this. These are talented players that need the right amount of nourishment. They need to be moulded perfectly. These are core years, key years to be developing these players. And they might miss out on that if we don't have the right people in place. If they do develop and it takes too long, these players will be sold. Not just sold because it's profit, sold because we have to, sold because we've no longer competing on the top level that Chelsea Football Club has done for 20 odd years now. Plus, if we can't give them that, they will go elsewhere. And You know, that's something that happened with Arsenal in the mid 2000s. You know, we were taking Ashley Cole for them, but City were taking Adebayor, Clichy, Nasri's, United taking a Van Persie here and there. That's what you'll turn into if you can't compete on all fronts going forward in the future. It's something that needs to be rectified as soon as possible. Do I think they'll do it? It's a lot to ask with not a lot of data to back it up why it would happen. They do worry me a lot, to be fair. I didn't really know what to do as a first video, but it was very morbid. It wasn't very joyous, to be honest. But I thought talking about Chelsea and where I'm at with it at the moment, what my thoughts are in regards to Chelsea as a whole, it's probably a good way to start. You guys that have followed me for a while will know I'm a Chelsea fan. I will be covering a lot of other stuff as well as just Chelsea, as I always have done. It's not so much, just Chelsea focused in that sense, but I felt like it was right to talk about us because there's just a lot to talk about. There's a lot to wonder about when it comes to Chelsea Football Club, and not so much of it's good at the moment, but we'll be back there one day. I don't know how old I'll be, I don't know how old I'll be in this screen when we're actually back to being the Chelsea, to pissing everyone off, to everyone watching us lift trophies every year. It might be a fucking while, I'm not gonna lie to you. But make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I know, guys, I've fully sold out. Like and subscribe. It's very new to me as well. I'm starting fresh. This is a weird experience for me, and it means a lot. People that have watched. So, yeah. Cheers, guys. In a bit.